Welcome to another show. Do you believe that your spirit lives on after death? Today, we're going to talk about the ghost of actor George Reeves.
No one can do the things that Superman does. And that goes especially for flying.
Great Superman's Ghost, 1579 Benedict Canyon Drive, Los Angeles. One of the spookiest stories of a celebrity specter involves the alleged shade of actor George Reeves, best known to a generation of pre-adolescent baby boomers for playing the Man of Steel on TV's Adventures of Superman throughout the 1950s, and whose dark and mysterious tale was dramatized in the 2006 film Hollywoodland. Although charming and likable, Reeves was also naughtier than his clean-cut TV alter ego and enjoyed all the illicit perks of the Hollywood nightlife before being found shot in the head in the bedroom of his modest Benedict Canyon home in 1959. Los Angeles police ultimately ruled Reeves' death a suicide and blamed it on his inability to get an acting job playing anything other than the caped superhero. The cops glossed over the fact that Reeves was launching a renewed career as a TV director, and dodged the fact that the actor's longtime sugar mama, who bought the Benedict Canyon home for him, was insanely jealous after Reeves dumped her for another woman. She was married to a powerful studio fixer with connections to both the police and organized crime, who quietly cleaned things up when showbiz types landed in serious trouble. Then there was the lovely young club-hopping socialite Reeves planned to marry, whose account of the night Reeves died had more holes in it than the actor did by the end of the evening. Whether suicide or murder, all the unanswered questions may have left one very restless spirit in Benedict Canyon. In 1969, a decade after Reeves' death, rumors circulated about some unusual happenings at the former Superman's home, but his lover Toni Mannix, who inherited it from her ex-lover and had struggled to keep it rented for years, refused to discuss it. A Los Angeles Times reporter tracked down some ex-tenants, however, and learned the chilling details. The renters revealed that one night while entertaining guests in the living room, they heard noises. The bedroom, Reeves' bedroom, previously neat and orderly, was a mess. Linens torn off the bed, clothes strewn around. They straightened the room and returned downstairs to find that all the drinks on the coffee tables had been moved to the kitchen. Another time, the couple's German shepherd barked at the bedroom door furiously, then suddenly cowered and slunk away as the tenants peeked inside and discovered the bed had been moved across the room. The last straw came around 3 a.m. one summer morning when the apparent ghost of Reeves, dressed in his TV Superman costume, appeared in the living room. Within the hour, the tenants had moved out. Reeves was born George Kiefer Brewer, later Besselo after his mother's remarriage, had some early success as a film actor beginning in 1939 when he was cast as one of the Tarleton twins in the epic Gone with the Wind. Reeves would eventually find himself starring with Claudette Colbert in Paramount's So Proudly We Hail from 1942, a war film made shortly before he was drafted into the real U.S. Army Air Force in 1943. The actor remained stateside, with duties that included appearing in both the Broadway and Hollywood film versions of Winged Victory, a soft production, and making training films. The Hollywood he returned to after his discharge in 1945 was an industry town in transition, with fewer production companies making fewer films. Instead of appearing opposite such stars as Jimmy Cagney, Ronald Reagan, and Merle Oberon as he once had, George was now starring in Saturday morning costume serials, westerns, TV anthology programs, and on radio. He also signed to play the lead in the syndicated weekly half-hour program, The Adventures of Superman. Reeves had taken the role of Clark Kent Superman, based on the DC Comics comic book character as well as its predecessor radio program which aired from 1940 to 1951. He took the low-budget show for the paycheck, confident the pilot would never be sold. But in 1952, ABC picked up the show, shot as the theatrically released Superman and the Mole Men in 1951 and later carved up into 2 half-hour episodes.
They had the bodies of moles and great big human heads. They were just horrible. Those creatures killed that poor old man, and they wanted to kill me.
And he would spend the next 6 years, for 104 episodes plus a guest shot as the character in the costume on I Love Lucy and countless personal appearances at everything from Wild West shows to supermarket openings as Superman.
Yes, we've been married.
Do you mean to say that you've been married to her for 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
And they call me Superman.
In 1953, already identified with the costume, he was cast in a minor role in From Here to Eternity.
David tells me I've been eyeing the captain's wife like a hound dog at hunting time. Yes, super well for that character. Took up with a lot of men back then, both of us. Right. You know, like one of those stalking stories like that.
A big-budget film highly anticipated for, among other things, a performance by crooner and actor Frank Sinatra, who was also hoping for a comeback after his own career had hit the skids. Sinatra won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Reeves barely made it into the film, Most of his part was excised after preview audiences began to excitedly whisper, "Look, it's Superman." When he appeared on screen, he had been typecast out of serious acting. If his iconic role hadn't been enough, the mystery surrounding his death and afterlife served to cement his place in American pop culture. Too bad he had to land in the part of it that worshipped the Hollywood necrotocracy, that pantheon of the emotionally and physically wounded, and the tragically dead or mutilated. The ghost of George Reeves was condemned to drift forever alongside those of Jayne Mansfield, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Bruce Lee, Elvis, Natalie Wood, and the rest of the tabloid spirits. But Superman wasn't about squabbling siblings or kids trying to hide a broken window from their folks. He was up to the serious business of fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. Of course, I knew Superman himself didn't exist. He was just a character on a television show and in the comic books, but what he stood for was real enough. It was a message that resonated in the 1950s and early 1960s, when patriotism was in full bloom, when a kid's pride in being an American was bolstered by the real-world superheroics of the NASA astronauts, even then riding rockets into outer space, where Superman himself had come from. The message struck home with me. I was an unhappy kid in a dysfunctional home, but Superman gave me something to believe in, something to cling to. Truth, justice, and the American way. That was our show. What did you think? Did George Reeves commit suicide? Was he fighting over the gun with his fiancée? Was he murdered? Does his ghost haunt his old residence? These questions will never be satisfactorily answered. This is Billy Joe in for Kevin Given saying, if you enjoy this content, please subscribe to my channel, check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise in the comments below, and until next time, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.